Welcome into the film room, guys. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and today we're going to be talking about the Rams' new slot god, at least in my opinion, Decobie Durant. I'm going to be going through two games. I don't have a lot of games here, and I didn't want to, cut up any more of the broadcast film than I could. This is probably going to get a demonetization notice on this video, so if you do want to support the channel, be sure to drop a super thanks. It is the heart icon below this video. You can do that. You could also donate to my Venmo at JK if you want to support the channel further, because I probably am not going to make any money off this. But I had to put it out there. I had to get you guys some content. And I've been waiting because I don't like just putting out content that isn't 100% me. Really wanted to talk about Decobie Durant, though, because I came away very impressed. I've already talked to you guys about that. You guys have seen it in live streams. You saw it on the podcast with Alexis, Downtown Rams. Just after they drafted him, I really see the need. I see the fit. And I see somebody that's going to be used as a weapon in Raheem Morris's scheme and beyond after Raheem Morris. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start off here right away with the Clemson game. Not save the best for last. We're going to just go right into the best here. And, I think it's one thing with Decobie Durant. You see right off the bat, you see the speed. Okay, this guy ran a 4.38 on that play. You see him come in and making the tackle. I think that's very important to be able to do that, have that recovery speed. But just because you're fast and you're a corner doesn't mean you're going to have recovery speed. And so I think it's really important to be able to chase down guys and make tackles like Decobie Durant just did on that previous play. What I found throughout going through the tape and everything, this guy mirrors extremely well. For a corner. I mean, that's what you really want to see. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Jair Alexander coming out of Louisville. Not quite the same level. I mean, I think Jair is maybe, if not number 2, he's number 3 in the league at corner. But, he does have tendencies that I saw with Jair, who is one of my favorite corners I've ever watched. And here's the thing. You have to keep in mind the level of competition here. This is a step up for Decobie Durant. This is probably the biggest game he's going to play. And in this game against Clemson, he is going to get beat a couple times. He is going to have his moments. But the thing that was so impressive to me is his short-term memory. You look at a guy that really, he gives up a touchdown, he comes back. He had 2 interceptions in this game. The way he rallied back was very impressive to me. I thought you saw some really good stuff on this tape. He had 12 picks in college, so this is somebody that's a ball hawk. He's going to help you, I think, immediately in the NFL. I think it all translates because he does such a good job at finding the football, and that's something that, not every cornerback is really good at. From what I've noticed. Even, the ball hawking ability doesn't always translate to the NFL. I think it will with him. On top of that speed, you talk about the chase down tackles and, obviously the recovery speed, but I think he does a good job in using his explosiveness right off the ball. He can make a man pay in the screen game. And so, for that reason, I'm excited for him because the Rams do like to do that and they deal with the screens. And that's another way that that's another way that offenses are going to want to, tackle this type of defense. Specifically offenses that utilize guys like Marquise Brown here and a Deebo Samuel there and a Tyler Lockett here, and maybe even D. Eskridge, who's also on Seattle with Tyler Lockett. Guys like that'll be used out of the screen game often. I think he'll be definitely a guy you want to match up with. He is 24, so he's a little bit older, which the Rams typically like. This isn't somebody I would say is going to get redshirted. He is around that level where, okay, Cooper Kupp was a 3rd-round pick. This is somebody that was a 4th-round pick for the Rams. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up starting day 1 at nickel. I think he could play nickel. I think he could play outside. I think later on in his career, he very much resembles Darius Williams, who they lost in free agency, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think that is definitely a comparison I've heard a lot, but I also validate. I think it makes a lot of sense on that front. Again, he ran a 4.38 40. I think that's very impressive. And the thing that I care most about, because I don't really care a ton about the athletic testing I care more about how does that translate? Did I see that on tape, or is that just a thing that we're going to throw in there as like a buzzword? Like, oh, well, he ran a 4.38. He can run. No, it translates on tape. As you see there, he gets a nice interception. Very impressed, again, with his ball skills. He's a former high school quarterback and free safety. He did end up going to the HBCU known as South Carolina State, which has been putting guys on the map as of late. You want to talk about a guy by the name of Javon Hargrave, who's with the Philadelphia Eagles, and of course, one of the best, if not the best, linebacker in all of football, Darius Leonard, who went to South Carolina State. He's with the Colts. Those are two guys that came from this program, and both of them have one thing very much in common. Aside from school, all three of them, including Durant, all won the Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Now, here's the thing with Durant. He goes to South Carolina. 2017, he doesn't play. 2018, he starts 10 games. Starts to really show, okay, this guy has a legit role for the future. He's going to be a big part of our program, big part of our defense, etc. 2019, he earns his way onto the second team all-conference. 2020, of course, the COVID incident where they don't even play games that year. And then he comes into 2021 with an entire season of no football. You would think there's a little rust involved. Not a big deal for Decobie Durant. He comes in and immediately establishes himself as one of the best players in all of football when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. He's on the first team FCS All-American list, and on top of that, he becomes the Conference Defensive Player of the Year for only the fourth time in school history. Again, we mentioned the first two before. Also, Joe Thomas in that category, not the same Joe Thomas that, of course, was with the Browns. But he stands at 5'10". He's 180. He has 30 and 3/4 inch arms. And yeah, this guy's deemed as undersized. But when you look at the tape, it's kind of hard to imagine, as you see that really nice pass break up there, it's kind of hard to imagine that, the undersized nature of his game and what people want to call him is going to be much of a problem for a team that, I don't know, carried a 5'7" nickel corner in Nickel Roby-Coleman, the aforementioned Nickel Roby-Coleman. And on top of that, let's not forget Darius Williams, who they just let go, who was a starting corner on the outside. Again, don't just focus on this guy becoming just a slot guy, because the guy on the outside last year was 5'9". So the Rams, and I say this many times, I don't think people understand and haven't grasped the concept. The Rams don't care about size. They do not care. In their evaluations, they do not care how tall you are, how much you weigh. They drafted Tutu Atwell in the second round last year at wide receiver. They've drafted plenty of guys in the past. David Long Jr., 5'10" corner. Jalen Ramsey, sure, he's the prototypical cornerback, but they don't typically go after that. They went after Rochelle, I think, for the future. Sean McVay even called it this year. He's looking at Rochelle as a rookie and not really as a second-year guy. I think that speaks a lot to the fact that he is raw. He's a former wide receiver turned corner, whereas you're getting Decobie Durant, and while he wasn't in the NFL last year, like a guy like Robert Rochelle, this is somebody that has experience playing at a high level in a position of need, because right now I think the Rams are really looking at using Troy Hill on the boundary alongside Ramsey. I don't think he's going to be utilized as the slot corner. Maybe they'll make him interchangeable, but I think, make no mistake about it, I think Decobie Durant is going to come in and he is going to win that nickel job right away. They wanted him for that reason. I know that there were many draft pundits that were saying he's a 6th round talent. This is a reach. But when the Rams have their eye on a guy like this, and Les Snead really had his eye on him after the Clemson game, so did a lot of people, it's hard to imagine this guy really not panning out. They have a role. They have a pathway for a guy like Decobie Durant, and I think that's very important when you draft a player like this from a smaller school. We move on here to the NCAA game. Again, sorry, not all 22. I couldn't get all 22 for this game, and I don't have many other games, so I only put 2 of these games together. But I came away, again, really impressed with his ability. You see that maneuvering, the mirroring. He's right there, makes a really nice play on the football to bat that pass away. And he's not afraid to talk a little bit. Look at how easy it is with him. It's just, he's such a smooth mover in space, and you don't really have to worry about him. You can put him on an island, and for the most part, you see him there, the break on the ball, he's gonna most of the time come up with a big time play. And again, this is an area where he doesn't even necessarily need to play. You're not necessarily going to have to play on the outside. You might play a little bit, but I think the Rams really want him this year as a contributor on a Super Bowl defending team to play nickel. And I think when you look at his ability inside the numbers and what he brings to the table, it makes a myriad of sense. Now, talking about this guy, again, we mentioned ball hawk, 12 picks in college. He finds the football. He mirrors exceptionally well. He's a quick twitch athlete. I think the thing that's important, again, with the speed is that he carries it well downfield. There's not really a hitch. He's that fast. Like, it's exactly what it was, at his, testing. He is exactly that fast. And so that's a good thing. He does this thing where, he can stutter, he can stop, he maintains his balance throughout a route. I think he's very patient, but I also think he can disrupt the tempo of a receiver, which I love to see. He can redirect receivers. He's got an underrated ability of not only just feistiness, but physicality, which I do very much like. The Clemson game, again, just kind of going back to that, I think really showcases that this guy belongs in the NFL. He's going up against really good competition, really tough receivers, and he's making plays like 2 interceptions. Yeah, he got beat once, but he came back again. The short-term memory, I think, is a very key component for him specifically. Now, on top of that, he's shorter, he's smaller, but he's got a crazy catch radius. And this is what's going to allow him to make those big-time plays. Think of it like this. When you look at Darius Williams in 2020 for the Rams, he was lethal. He was like his own weapon. I mean, he was so important in a season where Jalen Ramsey wasn't really thrown at and only had 1 interception the whole year. They really needed the production and everything they got out of Darius Williams. Well, I think that's kind of where we're going with Decobie Durant in year 1. I think he's going to be that guy. He can jump routes. He can read the quarterback's eyes. He can be a pest. I don't think it's going to be as easy as it sounds to throw to him and pick on him when you have Troy Hill and also Jalen Ramsey, and he also can make plays. I think all of these guys now can generate turnovers. We saw what Troy Hill did in 2020. So I think it's very important now, and I think the Rams knew when they were equipping their defense the way they were, they wanted to generate more offensive possessions. So they didn't just get him because of the little things he can do. Obviously his tackling ability, again, which I do think is a little inconsistent, because I think this is somebody that is kind of an ankle biter. But I do think when he really has a chance to get a head full of steam and wrap up and really make a full-on textbook tackle, he can make it. I think when he's put in a position where he's staring down a ball carrier, like a tight end or somebody like that, he's going to bite at the ankles. He might miss, he might hit. There's always a cause of concern when you're only a buck 80 and you're diving at the big quads and lower half, so to speak, of a giant, receiver or tight end. And I do have that concern because, there could always be an injury risk there. On top of that, there is a concern being in the slot. You're going to go up against big slot receivers. You don't play the Steelers this year, but a guy that comes to mind that could be a problem is Chase Claypool. That type of receiver, bigger body. Some even want to move him to tight end, and he could be playing some big slot this year. You could also be looking at Treylon Burks from Arkansas with the Titans. Again, you're not playing them this year unless you go to the Super Bowl, but it's still that type of receiver could be a problem. If they wanted to utilize DK Metcalf in the slot, that could be a problem. So we'll see. I thought he handled himself well enough to not be super concerned about it, but I do think it's one of those things that could show up in the NFL, and I think it's one of those things to just be cautious of. It's not a guarantee, but it's something to definitely just be cautious of because it could be, a problem. Again, the inconsistent tackling, and that's not entirely his fault. Because, he isn't the biggest corner. He's not Jalen Ramsey. He can't just spear a guy like he's a WWE wrestler. He does have to, account for the fact he's only $110, or $180. He doesn't want to kill himself, trying to make a tackle. He doesn't want to break, his body, so to speak. So there is that to him. Now, here's the thing, okay? I think he has a tendency to get hung up in the running game a little bit. I think the Rams are going to focus on that when developing him and coaching him. I think he's going to be better in that aspect. I think coaching just at the next level is just going to be better for him. I think this is somebody that has a lot of the tools the Rams look for, and they can kind of mold him into what they want him to be. But I also think he has enough there to play right away. So I think he can learn as they go, but I think this is still somebody that, despite being a 4th rounder, the Rams have shown they've taken a 6th rounder at safety, the second safety of that said draft class, and have made him the starter and the captain in his second season. So they're not afraid to do that. They're not. So I do think he'll end up being a starter. I do, again, love his short-term memory. He loses one battle, but he doesn't typically lose the war, is what I like to say. Because, he might give up a touchdown. That sucks, right? But it's part of the game. It's going to happen. And I think a big factor to being a defensive back in the NFL or any level is having that short-term memory. Because you have to be able to respond. If you let one touchdown get under your skin, you're considered rattled the rest of the game. These receivers, they talk trash and all of that. They can get under your skin even more. And now all of a sudden, you're just completely rattled and there's no way of getting out of it. And I think really, again, looking back at it as, we wrap it up here, he's feisty. He's competitive. This is somebody that plays, I think, bigger than he really is, and I love to see that. That's, I think, really the embodiment of what I look for in a slot corner, which is becoming vital in this league because now you have, 11 personnel becoming the new norm and, teams wanting to go deep down the field and having 4 or 5 wide. I mean, that's just the way it's becoming, and so because of that, I think more often than not, you're going to have to account for that, and so for that reason, having a guy like Decobie Durant, who's incredibly fast, who is versatile, who plays above the rim, and keep in mind, playing above the rim when you're 5'10", $180, that's pretty impressive. But that type of guy that kind of does it all and has a lot going for him can not only play right away, is older, right? He's 24. He can play right away, but he also still has enough room to grow where you're like, man, we could be looking at a potential Pro Bowler here. That's what I think you're getting with Decobie Durant. That's what I've taken away from it, just watching the tape. He's very exciting. He's going to be even more exciting when he has a chance to be around Jalen Ramsey, and he's already talked about that. You've seen comments he's made, just want to be around Jalen Ramsey and learn from the best. That's going to help him. Troy Hill's going to help him. David Long will probably help him. It'll be a help to be around all those guys, be around the coaching staff, be around Sean McVay, Raheem Morris. I think this is a perfect situation for Decobie Durant because it doesn't mean necessarily he has to wait, a while. I think he's going to play right away. But even if he has to, even if the Rams try to slow play this and make him really earn it, I think at the end of the year, this guy is going to be a big-time player, big-time contributor, and he's a big reason why the Rams didn't bring back Dante Dion, who I think is very good. I think he's underrated. He should be on a roster if he's not already. But I think this guy offers a lot more than what people are realizing. And this was one of those picks where you look back and, maybe at the time people thought it was a little bit of a reach, but this could be one of those picks where you go back on, the Wikipedia draft thing and you go through and all the names are highlighted in gold that have gone to the Hall of Fame and I think blue for Pro Bowl or whatever. And you'll see at least a blue next to his name. I think this is somebody with the proper coaching and just everything he already has is going to be a big time player and is going to help the Rams in the long term. Again, It's the mantra. We hear it all the time. F them picks, F them picks, F them picks. But the irony is that without picks like this, without picks like Bruss and Decobie Durant and Quentin Lake and Kyron Williams and making these picks and hitting on them, you can't go and get Jalen Ramsey. You can't go and get Matthew Stafford. You can't do that. You have to hit on these, and I think they're going to find that they hit on back-to-back picks. So far through the film room, covered Logan Bruss. Now, I just covered Decobie Durant. I think this is going to be a hit, folks. I gave it an A- after the draft when I really dove into it. I see the fit. I see why they like him, and I'm excited to see him wear number 14 for the LA Rams coming to a SoFi Stadium near you. But that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and share this around. Hopefully Decobie sees it and doesn't take my criticism of him too personally. We've already seen that happen today. So, again, appreciate you guys. You guys take care, and I'll see you guys soon. Later.